Alright everybody, I'm back. Good morning. I'm Joseph, the Saunier Baker, and we're trying another favorite of everybody's, chocolate chip cookies. Now everybody loves chocolate chip cookies, but today we're going to try something I've finally given into. It's a hot trend, and that's brown butter. So we're going to dig into what makes brown butter better than just using regular butter, and then we're going to incorporate that into our recipe, and I hope you like it. So come along for the ride. So here are our ingredients. Now right away you may notice cake flour and bread flour, though we're making neither of those things, but we'll get to that later. So we have table salt, espresso powder, which amplifies the taste of chocolate. It won't make it taste like espresso. Our brown sugar, baking soda, eggs, vanilla concentrate, chocolate chips, and chocolate chunks, which I got from chopping up this big guy right here into a few little pieces. So we start with our two flours, our bread and our cake flour. Now the combination of these two helps you find the perfect balance between a chewy cookie and a delicate soft cookie. You can achieve the similar results with pastry flour, but this is what we have on hand. I always have this in my kitchen. So next you add some table salt, preferably non-iodized. Then we add a little baking soda, and then we combine those ingredients together. And then we'll set these to the side after we've gotten everything nice and incorporated, and we'll focus on the base of our cookie dough, which initially it'll start off looking like a batter. We start with this brown sugar, and then some granulated sugar, and then we'll add also some baking soda. I'm sorry, espresso powder. I done got ahead of myself. We'll add some espresso powder, and then our brown butter. Now the brown butter, of course, that's a process. You can check out my shorts to see how just quick and easy it is to make brown butter. I just didn't want to add it to this video. It's a little bit of a process. It takes a little minute, but it's not complicated. It's not hard at all, and just the aroma of brown butter alone is intoxicating. And we know how closely linked smell and taste are, especially when it comes to cooking. So you can just imagine the outcome and the flavor profile as well. So we're going to mix all of these things together, and I chose to whisk them by hand. I just took off my whisk attachment off of my hand beater, because a regular whisk, the other whisk I have, it would have caused me to do too much work. And this does require a little bit of elbow grease, but it's well worth it in the end. And if you want to use a mixer, then go ahead. I find that this gives me more control over what I'm trying to accomplish. So that's the reason why I chose it. So now we're going to add in my favorite ingredient, which is Island Spice Vanilla Concentrate, and it really levels up the flavor in a way that vanilla extract can't. If you have a recipe and you have vanilla extract and you decide to use this instead, make sure you use half of what the recipe calls for, because that's very powerful. Now lemon juice may seem like an odd ingredient, but what lemon juice does, it helps break down some of the gluten, and it works in harmony with the two flours to bring that balance between chewy and softness. And we can't have anything without eggs. The eggs is going to hold the recipe together. So we're going to whisk these ingredients together, and as we're mixing them together, it may begin to resemble more of a batter than dough, but don't worry about that. It'll all come together really nicely in the end. So once you've gotten that to a nice consistency, you want to add those dry ingredients that we mixed together earlier. I like to mix it in a little at a time so as not to, overwhelm the bowl. You don't want flour flying everywhere all over the place. It keeps everything nice and neat, especially if you decide to use a hand mixer with this. You don't want to just plop your flour and dry ingredients in there and they just fly all over the place. It'll make a mess. So I added them little by little, and just keep working with it, and eventually it will get to the proper consistency. It'll resemble more of a dough than a batter, which is what you're looking for. Now, before I even added any chocolate chips, which is our next ingredient, I thought to myself, this will make a good cookie right here alone. This will make a good cookie base, and you can, take it in almost any direction you want to take it in. I thought about adding in some caramel chips or some butterscotch chips if you're into that. I don't know how much you like butterscotch in your cookies, but for this recipe, we came for chocolate chip, so that's what we're going to do. So it's now time to add in those chocolate chips, and you just fold them in by hand until they're well combined. It's not a whole lot of work from here on out. Like I said, this recipe comes together very quickly, especially if you're already prepared in advance. That's why I like to lay my ingredients out, have them there on the counter, so I can go ahead and have everything ready to go once I get started. There won't be any stopping and starting. And as you can see, all that flour that was on the side of the bowl, I'm scraping it down and bringing that in and incorporating. We don't leave anything behind, because all the ingredients are important in this recipe to make the perfect brown butter cookie. And I tell you, if you try this recipe, you're gonna love it. It's gonna be amazing. So now I'm gonna add in these chocolate chunks. It was that big Hershey bar that I cut up earlier. We're gonna add that to it, and I have set some of those chocolate chunks aside for later on in the recipe. You'll see how that comes out in a few minutes. So now I'm just continuing to fold that in as well, like I did the chocolate chips, until they're well combined. And like I said, I believe there's no such thing as too many chocolate chips in a cookie recipe. So, I mean, if you want to add more, that's fine. It's perfect. It'll turn out it's good. It's whatever you want to do, you can do with this recipe. It's pretty versatile. It's not very fussy, and we all got our different things, what we like in our cookies and what we don't like. So do you. Let's zoom in and get a little bit closer shot of that. Now, as you can see, this is the consistency you want it. Now you can tell this cookie dough is very soft already. As you're mixing it, you'll see it doesn't give you much resistance, but the more things that you put in, the chunkier it gets. Of course, it will give you more resistance, but this is a very soft dough, very soft and very pliable. So now we're gonna lay these out. I chose to use a very small ice cream scooper, because these cookies, they get a reasonable size, so you don't have to plop down a whole lot of dough. And like I said before, you can never have too much chocolate, so that chocolate chunks that I put to the side, I just put 1 or 2 of them on top of each cookie, and they're good to go. So let's talk about what I'm wearing. Now this tie, these denim cargo pants, and this bomber jacket is from my favorite brand, Banana Republic, of course. These glasses are from Persol, and the shirt is from a Dillard's brand called Daniel Cremo. So yes, I let that batter sit for 48 hours. I let it sit in the fridge for 2 days, and this is the final outcome. They're beautiful, they're crunchy, they're chewy, they're moist, they're flavorful. I hope you make this, and if you do, whatever you do, continue baking. Keep baking, y'all.